Hello, welcome to the Four Bells, where we are in day number 3 of the first week of our legs cycle. So if you noticed on Monday, on day 1, the first day of this week, we did a big focus on unilateral strength, so dealing with single limb strength in the form of looking at pistols. Today we're going to touch on that metric that we're going to be looking for in terms of comparing the beginning and the end of this cycle, which is all about muscular endurance. So that's how our strength piece is going to be focused today. We've got some focus on the anterior aspect of the legs, some squatting patterns, and then we've got some work for the posterior aspect, the back of the legs, in some hinging patterns today. Squatting and hinging, hinging and squatting, that's going to be the theme today. We're going to start off with 3 things to get us ready. Our first thing is going to be opening up the hips, looking at stability, loading the quads, loading the glutes, all those fun things in the form of walking lunges. We're going to do 10 total reps of walking lunge, 5 per leg. From there, looking at some dynamic hamstring work, we're going to do the inchworm to push-up. If the word push-up fills you full of dread, don't worry about it. You don't need to do a push-up if you don't want to, but we are going to be focusing on the inchworm. We're going to be doing 5 reps of that, and then from there, working on some glute activation, we're going to look at some single leg glute bridging, which we're going to do for 5 each leg. We're doing these 3 things 3 times. Let's take a look at today's warm-up. So with the walking lunge in our warm-up today, first of all, of course, logistics is always an issue. Do you have space like we do in the gym to walking lunge around? If you don't, you can just do lunges in place. But when we're doing our walking lunges, ideally we like to take a nice big step out so we can stretch the hip flexor of that trailing leg whilst keeping the torso upright. Of course, if you don't have space, a simple reverse lunge in place is perfectly fine. Oh, look at that, very nice, Ben. From there, we look into the inchworm to push-up. So what we're trying to do is stretch the hamstring and throw in just a little bit of work for the upper body just for funsies. If push-ups are very challenging for you, don't worry about the push-up. But if we can, as we keep the legs straight, as we walk the hands back in, beautiful from bed. Standing all the way up, we bring the hands down, walking the hands out, little push-up if we can, keeping the legs straight, stretching out those hamstrings and calves as we walk the hands in. From there, we're going to get onto a mat or the floor, whichever you prefer, for a single leg glute bridge. Starting with the knees at about 90 degrees, we're going to push into the floor, stick one leg up to the ceiling, and then from there we drive the hip up, squeezing the glute on that working leg. So if you're not sure what to do with the upper body, you can drive the elbows into the floor, creates a little bit more stability in the upper body. And all we're thinking about is squeezing those cheeks, 5 per leg. So we're doing walking lunges for 10 reps, inchworm to push up for 5 reps, and then 10 of a single leg glute bridge for 3 sets. Thanks, Ben. For today's strength piece, we have some squatting and hinging to do. To put it as simply as possible, we have 5 sets. Each set is 3 minutes long, split into 2 90-second sets. In each of our 90-second sets, we're only going to be working for half of that time, so 45 seconds. So in our first exercise we start off with today, we're going to be doing goblet squats for 45 seconds. So really trying to overload that squatting pattern that we had when we're kind of testing and comparing our air squat muscular endurance. We're now going to add some external load to that to try and make it even more challenging, but only for 45 seconds. So of course, if you have weights at home, kettlebells, dumbbells, whatever you have, use them and see if you can get progressively heavier as we try and move consistently for 45 seconds. Same rules apply when we come into our second exercise today, the Romanian deadlift. We're going to be doing Romanian deadlifts or RDLs for 45 seconds. And again, if you have weights available, we should be trying to overload each set. Of course, making sure not only on the squats, but as well as the RDLs, we keep movement quality very high across these muscular endurance sets. Let's take a look at both of them. So when looking at our goblet squats today, all we're trying to establish is a nice range of motion in that squat. So that means making sure we get those hips below parallel, as low as you can for your structure, and trying to make sure that when we're holding a weight in front of us, particularly in a front-loaded squat, we're keeping that torso as upright as possible. So depending on what you have at home, dumbbells, kettlebells, barbells, whatever it is just trying to use whatever you have to try and get progressively heavier as we go across these 5 sets. And if we can, trying to move for the full 45 seconds without resting. When we come onto our RDL today, again, what do you have at home? If you are fancy, maybe you have a barbell, you can use a barbell for your RDLs. As you'll see, Ben here is using 2 dumbbells, my personal favorite way of doing Romanian deadlifts, as I can kind of move the hands and the arms around my structure. But what we'll notice if you see Ben pushing those hips back, He is trying to stretch the hamstring, load the glute, whilst also keeping a nice neutral spine position. So that's it. We're making sure that when we're doing our Romanian deadlift, we're not losing the upper back, we're not rounding the upper back, horrible. We're just making sure we keep the integrity of our spine throughout. So that's RDLs. Goblet squats and RDLs, 45 seconds, all the fun, all the time. Today's conditioning piece features 2 little short munchkin-sized 5-minute AMRAPs with a 2-minute break in between. In our first 5-minute AMRAP, we go back and forth between squat jumps for 10 reps, or jumping squats for 10 reps, and shin grabbers for 10 reps. That's what we're going to do. Use that couplet, go back and forth. Squat jumps for 10, shin grabbers for 10. If you're looking at the word jumping squat or squat jump and the idea of jumping fills your joints full of dread, you can just do a basic body weight squat today, or if you're feeling very dangerous, you can add some weight to it. But if you can jump and land with integrity, we would like to see some jumping squats. With the shin grabber, a nice explosive form of hip flexion in that sit-up variation. So once we've done that first 5-minute AMRAP, we take a 2-minute rest and come into our second 5-minute AMRAP today, where we are doing some bicycle abs for 20 touches, elbow to opposite knee. We're going to be doing 10 and 10 each side, and then from there we're going to be doing 10 total jumping lunges, 5 per leg. All the abs, all the legs in today's conditioning piece. Let's take a look at those 4 exercises. So with the jumping squat, again, all the way down in that squat, nice full extension of the hips, the knees, and the ankles as we try to go as high as we can. Of course, if jumping squats means that all of a sudden you like lose the knees or lose the chest, things start to go, oh, and look horrible, then of course, just a simple body weight squat works very well too. Thanks, Ben, very nice. From there, once we've done 10 jumping squats, it's into 10 shin grabbers. So we're trying to be explosive, hands on the floor, heels on the floor. Notice how Ben sits up fast, he grabs the shins, pulls them into his bum. That's what we're looking for. Everything should be explosive and aggressive. That's our first 5 minutes. With our second 5 minutes, we're going to be into some bicycle abs. Back on that mat, Coach Ben. We're going to have the hands by the ears, and all I'm trying to think is that hollow body position. So I'm going to push the low back into the floor, and I'm going to try and get my elbow to touch my knee. So you'll notice how one leg stays off the floor and is extended straight. Other leg, I'm bringing the knee as close to the elbow as possible. And depending on your structure, if you have a very long torso, it's hard to get the elbow to touch the knee, and all we're trying to do is get as close as we can for 20 reps, 10 per leg or elbow. Last but not least, the old jumping lunge, keeping the legs on train tracks. We're trying to extend both legs as we come up, and a nice soft landing, ideally with the back knee gently kissing the floor. Of course, if you find control is difficult and you smash your knee into the floor, this is no bueno. We don't want that for you. And of course, trying to make sure that if that doesn't work, just a simple reverse lunge is perfectly fine too. So 2 5-minute AMRAPs with a 2-minute break in between, squat jumps and shin grabbers, bicycle abs, and jumping lunges. Thanks, Coach Ben. See you next time, guys.